Hello and welcome. It's me, Bill Patton, the author of The Athlete Centered Coach, which is to date my magnum opus. It's 125,000 words and 400 pages. And it's essentially everything that I know about coaching from beginning to end. And, I'm going to start doing a series of videos here, and this is number one in regard to athlete-centered coaching. And, it's interesting because reading the book back again, I realize how challenging this material is and how I struggle to be an athlete-centered coach. But being an athlete-centered coach is a brain-friendly approach to coaching players. And so if we start there, if we say, all right, what I want to do is I want to draw out the best performances from my players, then have them own that moving forward, so that when that relationship ends, which it most certainly will at some point, then the athlete takes those lessons learned and goes forward with them as their own. What do we do instead? Oftentimes what we try to do is we try to use the force of our personality or our knowledge or coercion in order to force athletes to do certain things. I liken it sometimes to, it's like we're trying to drill a hole in the head of the athlete and then put a funnel there and then pour a bunch of information in. But that's not really effective. And it really can have a very negative impact on the motivation of the athlete. So, and then, this is why I chose bricks as my background, because sometimes you feel like you're heading, let me do backwards. You're knocking your head against the wall. And so in order to, introduce this and really start from a different perspective, let's put the athlete in the middle of that, because it's the athlete's growth and improvement and expertise that we want to foster. We want them to start doing the thinking about how they want to play and what's their role and all of this. So now the word education, which is basically what we're doing, we're educating the athlete. Educos, the root word educos, which is Latin, it means to draw from within, So essentially what we're trying to do is work with the athlete from where they are and draw out of them the performances that they can do. So reflect back on a coach or a team out of you. And to some extent, what they did is they showed you what you were capable of, and then you walked into that and began to do that. And it was of your own volition. Now, it doesn't mean that there can't sometimes be some coercion that happens. Sometimes an athlete needs someone to spur them on, put limits on their behavior, and say, no, you can't do that. Right. So right now I'm going through a situation where I have someone who would like to be on my team, but they're making it quite clear that they're not going to be fully committed to the team. And yet they say, I will be fully committed, except that I have to do this and except that I have to do that. And I'm like, I think you should go to the dictionary and look up the word full, and then also look up the word commitment and then see what those words mean. So I think that's going to be really important. I don't think this person's going to be on my team. And if they continue to try what they're doing, I may actually sit down with them, their parent, and the athletic director, and we will forge a behavior contract with that player. So sometimes it takes like this molding process. Okay. And then another thing that I do in my more private practice, because right now I've got, I'm coaching a high school girls team that has just kicked off. And then soon I'll be coaching one of the better boys high school teams in the country. And that's going to be its own unique challenge. But where I start when I get someone on the tennis court for the first time is I ask the student, and it's usually a kid, it's usually a child, and I will ask them, all right, there are players, coaches, and parents. Who's the decision maker? And it's really fascinating how few kids will say, I am, just immediately. They just aren't thinking that way. No one's ever taught them that. So that, they'll say you, and I'm like, no. My parents, no. And then they kind of go, well, what, process of elimination, what's left, right? Me, I'm the decision maker. Okay. Wow. Right. So, and sometimes they get this look of wonder on their face, and sometimes like this look of concern and responsibility that comes with that. And lots of reactions in between. But, and then when I ask them, why is the player the decision maker? And a lot of the kids will immediately say, because they're the ones playing the game. And I'm like, yep, that's why. Because if you have match point, you're the one that's going to be hitting the shot. It's not going to be mom and dad, and it won't be me. You will have to make it. You'll have to make a decision where you're going to hit that. So, so the next thing that we do is we say, all right, decision maker, who is your expert consultant? And they go, you. And I'm like, that was quick. And that's the fastest one. It's really interesting. After they're with their new found power to decide, they decide that the coach is the expert consultant, right? And if they choose something else, then there's a little bit of a concern there. So, and then I ask them who gives final approval. And, it's really interesting how widely varied the answers get here, right? I would say, not more than 50% of the kids say, oh, my parents, some will try to put it on me. Some will first say me, you, oh, my parents. Yes, because if they don't like what's happening here, then it's over. So you're going to be making the decisions. I'm going to point you in different directions. I'm going to question some of your decisions. If I think you're making a bad decision, I'm going to try to, show you a better decision to make. Some decisions are neutral. It's like, what style of play do you want to play? That's a decision you need to make. But does it fit with who you are? There's some things that we all discover with each other. So this is where I get fired, right? So the lesson's over, and we go to the parents and we say, all right, maybe you saw that conversation we were having, and we decided that the student is the decision maker, right? And then a very small percentage of parents go, and they don't even say a word. They just kind of make this scowl because they can't utter the words no on that one. And then your little decision maker, decided that I'm the expert consultant, right? And the scowl deepens a little. And then we decided together that you still have the power of final approval. And that's when I get that look like, okay, we're not coming back to you, mister. Because the parent is in full control of all those things. The parent is going to decide, and they're going to be the expert, and they're also going to be giving final approval. And so that's not an athlete-centered approach. And that student will probably never really fulfill their full potential. Although Wayne Bryan has said, yes, absolutely, you can beat your child onto the pro tour, which is really sad. And so he said, if you give him a minute anytime, he can write down the names of players who are on the pro tour who are actively afraid of their parent or coach. All right. So it doesn't mean it can't be done, but is that how you want to live? I don't think so. Now, so the next group of people, and this is slightly larger group of parents. I go, hey, we decided your kid is the decision maker. And then they get this look on their face like, are you sure? I mean, because the kid's track record is not that great. They've been making some bad decisions. And it's like, all right, come on. They're 10 years old, or 12 years old. Okay, come on. It takes time. We have to let them make small decisions. And then as they mature, then we allow them to make bigger and bigger decisions. Right. So it's not like we're going to, give them the keys of the kingdom and have them making adult decisions at the age of 9. That will not happen. But we can say, all right, do you want to practice volleys or serves right now? Right. And let them choose that. And then, then the next time we, all right, do you want to do volleys or serves? And they might say the same thing over. And then, but then, okay, interesting choice. Why do you want to do that? Shouldn't we also do the other one? And then they kind of go, yeah. Or, no, I'm really struggling with my volleys, so I really want to do volleys again. Okay, all right, let's do that. And so there's this thinking that goes through, and then they have to process their decision making, and then we evaluate that, right? Well, anyway, so then I said, and then your child, decided that I'm the expert consultant, and then that parent kind of goes, maybe that's a dubious choice. We don't know, right? What you're trying to let my kid who has a bad track record be a decision maker. So I'm not even sure about you. Right. And then you have final approval. Okay. All right. At least we can pull the plug on this if we don't like it. And, in a short while, they start to come around and they start to see, that there's growth happening, and then they're reassured. That's generally what happens. And then the third group, which is much larger, and you might be surprised and happy to find that when you ask you tell the parent, hey, we decided that your kid's the decision maker, I'm the expert consultant, and you have final approval. They say, of course, right? Because that's what it's all about. They understand that it's all about the kid's growth and the player's growth as a person and being able to solve problems and find their way. And that they've hired an expert. So of course they're going to rely on the expertise. There's a relationship, right? So then we kind of go a little bit further into that, and we say, all right, so first we want to know how does the player see it, but then we also want to confer as adults on, hey, you, mom, dad, you took your child to a match. What did you see happening in that match, right? Okay, player, your mom and dad say this. What do you say? Right? Oh, I happened to be at that match and I saw it differently than both of you. So now we can reconcile. We can try to figure out, what do we agree on? What do we disagree on? And then, sometimes I might say, hey, unfortunately, you both had it wrong. So you both need to trust me, and I'm going to show you why it's got to be a different way than that. So, and then that works out a lot better. Now, if you go through this process, then you've established a really good basis for athlete-centered coaching, and it improves the relationship between the three. And you might be very surprised at parents who maybe didn't seem too engaged, but when you find out that they are, very much believing in that system and those parameters, then you realize, okay, that there's a reason why they're not engaging a lot. It's because there's a lot of trust there. So that's good. It's a good thing. But then you want to foster that ability for the parent to come to you with feedback about what's going on. Or if you're having a little problem with their student, then you can say, hey, look, I'm having a little issue with when we do this, the kid doesn't want to do it, or he shuts down, or she seems nervous, or what have you. Why is that? Can you give me some cues on how to get through to your kid better? And so that's a big part of it too, is hey, help me understand your kid, because we as coaches don't know everything, and we might perceive something, right? And then you might find out, oh, they were in some type of accident, or they've had a situation where they were being bullied, or something like that. And then you start to understand, why is it like that? So a few years back, I had a student, and when he first came to our little mini camp that we had at the club, I immediately recognized that he and his sister were both on the spectrum. So, I went to my staff and I was like, all right, do you see what's happening here? Right. And so we came up with strategies to help get these two kids that were on the spectrum to engage with the other kids, and it worked out really well. And then, because they felt comfortable with me, the older brother actually decided to start taking lessons with me, private lessons after camp. So the dad came to me and said that his son had attention issues. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'd rather have a conversation about your son being on the spectrum, is what I was thinking. I did not say that. Right. But anyway, so I just waited. I did what I would do with a kid who's autistic, and it worked out well. And then after a period of time, and it might have been almost a year, then finally the dad confided in me that indeed their son was on the spectrum, and I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing, but we can't be too demanding about full disclosure about these things, but we have to go about things in a way that helps foster that relationship. Sometimes we have to earn the trust of the other two. And so that's where I want to land this thing is, whenever we're coming into a new situation, it's a really good idea to let everybody know that we want to gain their trust. I think it's not a good idea to come into a situation and assume that simply because of your position, that everyone must trust you. So, on the other hand, then with my athletes, I say, look, I'm going to immediately trust you, but if you lose my trust, then you're going to have to earn it back. So, I'm going to start by just believing that you're going to do everything, very well and to the very best of your ability. But if you start to prove otherwise, then we're going to have to talk, and you're going to have to do something to regain my trust in that area. So anyway, that's athlete-centered coach number 1. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start giving some recent news in neuroscience and how that might apply to our coaching. So next time I go live, it's going to be practical neuroscience, number one. And then I'm going to go into youth sports report. So I'm going to go through some national reporting on what's happening across the country in youth sports, and then we'll kind of dig into that. And that's going to be like a little compiled news report, so that you can kind of see some things that you might relate to, and we can start to talk about local solutions to the global problems of youth sports. So, all right, thanks for watching. Hit like, share it out if you liked it. And then this is probably going to turn into the second edition of the Athlete Centered Coach. If you don't have it, go check it out on Amazon. It's the best thing I've ever written. All right. We'll see you next time. Looking forward to your comments and questions.